Okay, 3 damage to all units. That's unfortunate because it means now to kill this Lissandra. So I could kill this Lissandra. But to do that, I would have to kill my own Draklorns. Wait. We found the way out. We heal the one, then we avalanche, killing our other Draklord, but killing Lissandra and Trundle. And now we shouldn't die to a Watcher this next turn. Hey everyone, Raptor Spank here, and today we have On the Grind, the show where I cover a deck I'm playing in Ranked. I'll break down the deck, talk about some flex spots, go into some basic mulligans, and then we'll put it through some ranked matches and review how we do afterwards. So, this week, talking about another deck that kind of popped up in the recent few weeks, and another great excuse for playing it with the new Beach Party skins as well, but that's Lissandra Taliyah, kind of Turbo Thralls combo is probably the best way to put it. It's kind of built like a control deck in some shells, but realistically speaking, you're a combo deck that's looking to kill your opponent fairly quickly with well, our Thrall combo. You play Frozen Thralls and you level them up, and we try to level them up a lot faster, and occasionally have them tick more than once to really blow out your opponent. So that's the game plan, the primary goal we're going for here, and really there's not many other ways that the deck is going to win without Thralls, other than potentially if you create a bunch of Thralls and they get killed, you can play the Watcher and obliterate your opponent's deck, and that can win you some games as well, because we do have 3 copies of Lissandra. But the real reason to play this deck, it's a Taliyah deck that's actually fairly competitive, which is kind of a first for her, so kind of cool if you're looking for a different way of playing the game. This is a fairly different way of playing the game, but let's really go into that, starting with the champion package. We do have those 3 copies of Lissandra I mentioned. This is a nice on-curve way to get a Thrall into play, and it does provide us with that alternate win condition of we can get a Watcher off her, and that should finish off most opponents, even if they can deal with our Thralls. If Watcher gets even one swing in, that should deal with most decks you run into. So that's kind of the plan here. We're not really caring that much if she lives, because realistically speaking, the big value we get out of her is playing her on turn 3 and getting that Thrall. So if we haven't found a Thrall already, she gives us another Thrall. So that's kind of actually the main point of her. But if we do get her leveled up, get that Watcher, make it so our Nexus takes less damage, we get those free ice shards each turn, that is really good for us, but it's not the primary plan. So it's really just there to start our Frozen Thrall plan if we haven't found Thralls through any other way. Then we do have 2 copies of Taliyah. We don't really run 3 copies because we're not really looking for multiple copies of her. Basically, she's just kind of there as a pseudo finisher, because we do have plenty of landmarks in play usually to give her that multiple triggers so that she just blasts away any blockers, or if she goes unblocked, she deals even more damage to the opponent's Nexus. So lots of great value we can get out of her, but the best thing we can do is copy one of our Thralls with her, which is really, really good, because we can do things like give our Thrall, our Frozen Thrall, the ability to tick twice, or say reduce it down to a 1 or 2 cost very early on, and then copy it so that it gives us those 2 Thralls very quickly. And that is basically the idea here, is that we spawn out those Thralls so much faster than our opponent can deal with, and then just kill them with these huge overwhelming threats. So her ability to copy our best Thrall in play is really, really strong. So, going into our landmark package, which is actually weightier than our champion package for once, we do have 3 copies of Frozen Thrall, because starting on turn 1 with the Thrall is our best start to every single game. So we do run the 3 copies of it, so we have that chance. We really do need to see a Thrall in every single game, so we need this little extra guarantee to find it. Then we do have 3 Preservariums, because we are a combo deck. We do have a number of really important pieces, so having this landmark to help us draw through our combo, or through our deck to find our combo, really, really strong, easy to include, no surprise there. We do also have 3 copies of Blighted Ravine. This is a great removal spell, and it does heal us 2 effectively, because it heals 4, then deals 2. So It's really good for board wipe, and it can actually kill our opponent in certain circumstances too, because it does deal 2 damage to the enemy nexus as well. So keep in mind the fact that you can actually use this as a win condition if you can get your opponent low enough. So it works really well for a lot of things we're trying to do, and it does really buy us time by clearing our opponent's board and healing us. So lots of good value out of it. As for the follower package, fairly small package here, but we do have 3 copies of Clockwork Curator. One of our best curve outs is turn 1 Thrall into turn 2 Curator, taking it down twice more, but this is just part of our accelerating our Thrall package to get those 8/8s out faster than normal, so really, really good. Also a body on the board. Sometimes you can play this with no value just to block into certain aggro matchups, but generally speaking, we are wanting this to come down, reduce one of our Thralls. Really great if we can then copy that Thrall or give it promising futures, something like that, so that getting it out faster and flipping faster, really, really good, but just does a lot of things our deck's looking to do. Up from there, we do have the 3 copies of Kindly Tavern Keeper. This is just here as a really great 3/3 for 3 that also heals us for 3. So it's a good answer for aggro decks. It can block multiple Blades or multiple Sand Soldiers, for example, against Azir Aurelia, while also gaining us life, which really helps to undo some of the damage that aggro decks can do particularly early to us, because aside from Ice Shard, we're not really doing much in the first 1 to 2 turns to deal with our opponent's stuff, so they can get a lot of damage in fairly quick for us. So this is a good way to, on curve, kind of fix that. And there's other certain things we can do with this, healing our own units as well, which can be good in some certain circumstances. Then we also do have 3 copies of Draklorn Inquisitor. Point of the deck is to flip Thralls quicker than normal. This is the best card for doing that, but obviously it is fairly easy to kill, or it's easier to kill than our Thralls are, so it's a bit harder into certain matchups, but other ones like, say, Threshnasus and Azir Aurelia, both of which are pretty prominent decks right now, they are going to have a hard time dealing with Draklorn Inquisitors, so this is a good way for us to get our Thralls out much faster than normal and start really chunking our opponents. So really great card in the deck, and also he creates a Thrall when you play him, so it's another copy of Thrall in the deck as well. So if you haven't found your Thralls, this will find you Thralls too, although if you aren't playing a Thrall until turn 5, you are in pretty bad shape. And finally, 1 copy of the Clock Hand. Some people run 2 copies. I'm only running 1. But what it does is it gives you 2 instant sentries in hand, which advances the landmark by 4. Obviously really good. This means we are leveling up a Thrall once we play Clock Hand, because we can do both of them on 1 Thrall, and even if we played that Thrall this turn, it will give us the 8/8 with Overwhelm. It will finish the landmark off right then and there, and also really great with Draklorn Inquisitor for getting multiple Thralls to that point. And just often, by the time this comes down, we can get 1 very low, and then also flip 1 right away into an 8/8. So this is just a great way to close out the game. It's a huge body on its own too, which is really, really great, but it is very expensive, very, very slow, and against decks like Threshnasus and Azir Aurelia, we often aren't going to live long enough to play this, which is why I'm only running 1 copy. Into other matchups, it's insane, and it's just really great to slam this, flip all of your Thralls, and just kill your opponent right then and there. So I do love it in the deck, but I'm personally only running 1. Though, let's jump into the spell package, because this is pretty meaty. I start off mine with 3 Sisters. Some people have a bunch of different things that they run, but I like the one of 3 Sisters because this can find you a lot of really good spells. It can find you Flash Freeze, which is obviously one of the best and most frequent ones you're going to use, because that's going to just deal with any threat for a short time being anyways, reducing their power so that you're not taking a huge amount of damage. But you also get the chance to pull something like the Frozen Strength one. The name's escaping me at the moment. Fury of the North. There we go. You can pull Fury of the North, which is really, really good and has won me more than 1 game by buffing the damage of our units so that we can force that extra bit through, and even if our opponent's blocking, it can allow us to close out the game. So I do really like Fury of the North as a pull too. And there's been more than 1 game where I've actually considered pulling Entomb off this, and usually I end up winning without needing to Entomb. But it is a nice answer for, say, Spectral Matrons, or other decks that might be playing a huge Celestial threat where we can strip Spell Shield from them and then entomb it to buy us just enough time to close out the game. So it's a non-zero number of times you'll use it for entomb, but most times you're going to be using it for Flash Freeze or Fury of the North. Then we have 3 copies of Time in the Bottle, one of the best cards in the deck because it ticks our landmarks down by 2 like Clockwork Curator, but it also lets us sort of play with the top of the deck to make sure we're getting the best draw possible out of the 3 options they give us. So really good for making sure that we're curving out nicely and also getting us closer to that win condition of flipping our Frozen Thralls. So really, really good card. Awesome in every way. Can't stress enough how great it is in the deck, and I would never drop any of these for another card. Then we do have 2 copies of Ice Shard as well. Nice little board wipe against Azir Aurelia especially, but also pretty good against Thresh Nasus too, as long as they're not on the Ravenous Butcher Escaped Abomination plan. But there are a lot of decks right now that are very vulnerable to Ice Shard, so that is why we're running 2 copies of it. Kind of a better removal spell right now, although it is at slow speed. 2 copies of Avalanche, because this does catch a lot more things, because it does catch the Butcher, although you're still going to take a huge chunk from the Escaped Abomination. But these are just some nice board wipes to make sure we keep clearing our opponent's stuff, buying us more and more time. Then one of the coolest cards in the deck, Promising Future, 3 copies. We are running all 3 because it is so good when you can get it off, because what it does is it makes it so your landmarks count down twice. Now, there's a number of good things you can do. You can use this on Blighted Ravine, because dealing 4 damage can get you around some other things that otherwise you wouldn't be able to remove. But keep in mind, then it heals 4, it deals 4, so you don't gain any life off that. The big thing is, you use this on Frozen Thrall, so when it ticks down, you get 2 8/8s with Trample or Overwhelm, and your opponent is in a pretty bad shape at that point. Also gives you some of the craziest turns you can ever have, where you go turn 1 Frozen Thrall, turn 2 Curator or Time in a Bottle, tick it down, turn 3, maybe tick it down again, and then, or just, even play like a Tavern Keeper healing or anything like that. And then you go turn 4, Promising Future on your Frozen Thrall. Now when it ticks down, it's going to create 2 8/8s, and then you turn 5 Taliyah, copy that one, and now you have 2 Frozen Thralls. The one they tick down are going to create 2 8/8s. And suddenly your opponent's staring down the barrel of a very, very large gun. And that is just such an awesome play when you get it off, and you'll actually get it off fairly frequently with this deck. It's not that uncommon, so really cool play. One of the neater tricks you can do in this deck. Now, I'm also running one of Rite of Negation. Essentially, I just like this because right now Atrocity is a big part of one of the best decks in the format, so having that Rite of Negation to catch that, as well as deal with other random things like, say, Vengeance or Ruination, there's just, it's a neat catch-all for a number of problems in the format that you could run into with this deck. So I'm running the one-of copy of it. It's not really key to the deck, so it's definitely something you could drop to play with some other numbers, but I'm running it over the second copy of Clock Hand myself. Then I do have 2 copies of Succumb to the Cold. I've talked about how important it is that we find Thralls. This is another way to create a Frozen Thrall while also doing a Flash Freeze effect. So it costs 1 more mana, but it gets us that Thrall, which is exactly where we want to be, and it buys us a little more time by taking a lot less damage from whatever we just frostbite, or frostbit, I guess, and a really good answer for big threats like Nasus, for example. I also do have 1 copy of Harsh Winds because Frostbite is really, really good in our deck, and I like the ability to Frostbite 2 things for 6 mana. Really solid way for us to deal with some of the more busted things, like a super buff Azir, a super buff Sparring Student, Nasus, as I mentioned. A lot of great things we can catch with this, so I do like the one-of copy of Harsh Winds. And then a really neat card. A lot of people were running this, so I said, heck, I'll try it. And it's actually impressed me fairly well, and that is the one-of copy of Buried in Ice. It is super expensive and kind of inconsistent what it does for you, so it's not really worth running more than one of these. But this is a pseudo board wipe, because we are so good at pressuring our opponent and killing our opponent fairly quickly that if we just buy ourselves 2 turns, like Buried in Ice does, because it entombs their board, so that means that next turn they still won't be back, but the turn after they'll come back. So it fogs that 1 attack that turn. but then they also can't block on the flip side, so we usually can kill our opponent by turning their entire board into tombs. So really, really solid card from that perspective. It is expensive, but it is a great late game bomb for just winning you the game outright right there by just getting rid of your opponent's stuff. Although, keep in mind, lots of Spell Shield in the meta between the Dragon's deck and Nasus, so you will need to remove Spell Shield in order for Buried in Ice to grab their stuff. But, really good card, gets you some crazy combo wins, so I like the inclusion. As for some flex spots you can do, as I first mentioned, you can play with the numbers a lot. You can drop right a negation for another clock hand, or you can go up avalanches, up ice shards, go down one, go down the other, drop the harsh winds for another frostbite effect. But some things I've seen people playing that I think are actually kind of neat and worth mentioning. One of the weakest ones is Ancient Preparations. But I do see some people running it because it does let you predict, so you can kind of adjust your draws to make sure you're finding your combo pieces, and it does give you units fairly early on, which is kind of nice. And you can also Promising Future it to get a couple of units out if you're in an aggro matchup where you're looking to block a lot of things, but there's still only 2/2s, which isn't that great, so I'm personally not running it. I don't think it's really worth it. I'd rather be doing more direct things myself, so I'm not running it. But it is something you can definitely consider, and some people do like it. So it's something to keep in mind anyways. I would be more tempted to run Avaros and Sentry. I've seen people run it in this deck. Not a lot of people are doing it right now, but it's something I have run into the ladder, and it can actually be fairly problematic for some other decks that are trying to outrace it. Being able to play this 2-drop that also draws you a card, actually pretty solid. Gets you towards your win conditions fairly quickly. You could potentially drop Preservarium for it, although Preservarium draws you one extra card and helps you level up Taliyah, so that is debatable, but you could potentially drop it for that, and that would improve your aggro matchup quite a bit by giving you this early body that can block. But nice card. I'm not running it myself right now, but I have seen a lot of aggro in the meta right now, and that does kind of create a lot of justification for going up some sentries anyways. Maybe even not the full playset, but putting in 1 to 2 of them or something like that. As for some spells, this is where I've seen a lot of different things that people are running. First off, I've seen some people running Imagine Possibilities. I'm not a huge fan of it myself. Yes, it's only 1 mana to tick all of your landmarks down by 1, so when you have a bunch of Frozen Thralls out there, being able to tick them all down by 1, really, really solid, but it's only 1. And oftentimes that's not enough to make the difference. There are some games where it is, but usually it's not enough to make a difference, and its other effect of creating some random landmark with countdown in hand is really inconsistent, not great, and it doesn't grab Howling Abyss, which is the best landmark that I would consider running something like this for, is to grab something like that for win conditions, but kind of weak, but some people are running it. Similarly, some people are running Ancient Hourglass. This obliterates an ally and creates a stasis statue in place, which is a countdown 1 landmark that the next turn it puts the unit back into play. Now, I've seen people running 1 to 2 of this. I'm personally not running it because I wanted to go a little more control-oriented with my list myself, but there is a lot of justification for this. This is going to sound weird, but it can save one of your units from removal, which is really, really sweet if they try to kill something of yours, or if you block but don't want to lose that thing, you can do this to get it back next turn while still effectively blocking. But one of the better things here is that if your Thrall engine kind of stumbles and runs out of gas and you're out of Frozen Thralls, you can always Stasis Statue, Ancient Hourglass, one of your own 8/8 Tramplers, and then Promising Future it to create multiple ones. And you can do that trick with other things too, like multiple Taliyahs, stuff like that. So there's actually a number of neat tricks you can do with this, but I've kind of seen so many aggro decks that I wanted to go the control route a bit more rather than this combo Dreamland, where it'll be really great when you pull it off, but you're usually not going to live long enough to pull it off, I feel, in the current meta, so that's why I'm not running it, but it is definitely something worth considering. It's probably the most debatable card to put in. Aside from Flash Freeze, which is another thing people have been running, I've seen a lot of Flash Freezes, in fact. Some people run Flash Freeze over Succumb to the Cold. I personally think the thralls are so important to your game plan that actually I do feel Succumb is better. I really thought about running Flash Freeze instead, and then I've had so many games where I'm literally succumbing something that's not even that good just to get a thrall out so I can start working towards winning. And that's actually worked out very well for me in a number of cases. So it's just really worth including Succumb in my opinion. But you can always drop like Harsh Winds or Buried in Ice, or drop Three Sisters for Flash Freeze, because I mean, if you're oftentimes using Three Sisters for Flash Freeze, it's cheaper to just run the Flash Freeze then. So there's definitely some debates or some reasons to run Flash Freeze. So it's a good potential include, but I'm personally not running it right now. But it's definitely that and Ancient Hourglass are probably the things I'm most likely to throw in, although with how aggressive things have been lately, Avaros and Sentry is definitely on the list too of things I would consider. But those are the big flex spots for the deck. As for some basic mulligans, I mentioned you'll keep a Thrall plus Clockwork Curator or Time in the Bottle in any hand in any matchup, because our big plan is to try and win. So a crazy combo like that is just really, really good. If it's a kind of slow matchup where you think that they're not going to be able to kill you by turn 5, then keeping a Frozen Thrall, Clockwork Curator, Promising Future Taliyah hand is possible, but generally speaking, I'm going to mulligan any Taliyahs, Draklorn Inquisitors, Clock Hands, Buried in Ices that pop up in my hand because they're so expensive. Against aggro, I prioritize removal above everything else. I do want some sort of game plan myself, like I'll keep a Frozen Thrall if I find it. I mean, you'll keep the Frozen Thrall in your opening hand in every single game. You probably will want to mulligan any extra copies, but you'll want to keep a one of in any hand. But in aggro, you're really going to prioritize removal. That's going to be the best situation for those cards. So you're really going to look for Avalanches, Blighted Ravines, Ice Shards. Obviously, Ice Shard goes up in priority against things like Azir Aurelia, and even against Thresh Nasus, it's kind of good, although Avalanche is going to sometimes carry a bit more weight in that. And then into like Azir Darius Burn, you're definitely looking for the Avalanche. Blighted Ravine is a bit slow because it doesn't come down until turn 4, and oftentimes that can be too late. But you're going to look for things like that. You can also use Frostbite in a pinch too. Kindly Tavern Keeper, really great in those matchups too, because it gives you a great body on board that also heals you. So those are the big things you're looking for in aggro. Against mid-range, that's where you really look for the combo, because combos are really, really good against mid-range decks. So that's where you're just looking to get out Thralls as fast as possible. Draklorn Inquisitor's actually kind of weak into Demacia ones, because they usually will have a way to deal with him. But against like Celestials, so like Mono Targon that's splashing something else, or non-Demacia mid-range decks, you're actually going to be able to pull off Draklorn Inquisitor a lot. So that's where it's going to get a lot better. And then otherwise, you're really just looking to combo as fast as possible. Looking for things like Time in a Bottle, Promising Futures, Taliyah to copy the Frozen Thralls. Just looking to get those Thralls flipped as fast as possible so you can kill your opponent before they get their huge board set up. So that's the big thing for mid-range. Against control, you are looking to be aggressive, but realistically speaking, it's kind of the same as mid-range here. You're looking to combo as fast as possible, because most control decks are going to have a hard time dealing with a bunch of 8/8 tramplers that come out super quick. And you can always back it up with Rite of Negation to stop anything like a Ruination or a Vengeance or something along those lines. So just look to combo quick, kill them with some sort of backup like Rite of Negation, just to prevent your opponent from doing too much, or just build a bunch of Thralls out there, so even if they can deal with the first Thralls, they won't be able to deal with batch 2 or 3. So that's the big idea for those, and that's the basic mulligans for the deck. So if you like the deck, there is a deck link and a deck code in the description below, and let's jump straight into some ranked matches and see how we do. Azir Aurelia, okay. Well, we knew we were going to see it. Saw it quick. Can totally understand why it has that much mastery on it, though. This deck's been busted for so long that it's been easy enough to do. Alright, we're pitching the expensive cards, we're keeping the other cards. Preservarium's not particularly great here, but at least it can hopefully find me better. Ooh, actually, this is phenomenal. This curve out here is phenomenal. If we can keep Frozen Thrall from leveling up by the time we hit turn 5 without dying, then that's even better for us. Because we can copy that close to it leveling up. So now what we really want is we want to find like oh man, tells you how soon or how early I've picked up this, or how quickly I've picked up this deck without knowing much. The thing that makes the countdown strike twice, if I can find that card, if I can find that card by the time Taliyah comes down, and I copy that with like a double countdown effect, we'll be in really good shape. Oh, I like that a lot. Yeah, I think this is just our best play this turn. And then we'll see what we do next turn. We might be in for Blighted Ravine next turn. We're just gonna ship it here, I think. Yeah, I don't think it's particularly cost effective for us to swing with Kindly Tavern Keep. It's better to keep his health intact so he can block. Ooh, I don't think we're in for Blighted Ravine anymore. How likely is this Ice Shard to work right now? I don't think I need to. So, we could Ice Shard right now to kill this Sparring Student. Unless he can pick it up, do all these other things. But, this should definitely kill Sparring Student. And I can always chump block with Clockwork Curator, who would die to this Blighted Ravine anyways. Okay, so he has Flawless Duet, plus Dancing Droplet. Going to be a very, very large Sparring Student. And of course, if I have to, I can always just pop this Ice Shard early. Just to kill everything else. Okay, yep. And, okay, so he is not leveled up. Okay, he just leveled up. Never mind. That last one, the Sand Soldier did it. But that's fine. I can take the 2. That's not a problem. See, does he have like the... Well, the pump spell doesn't work. Because he hasn't played a landmark. What's he thinking? Are we better off with a Blighted Ravine? Or are we better off with Ice Shard at this point? I really want to Blighted Ravine here. That's honestly probably the best, right? So we block here. That's a lot of damage, though. Whereas I can block like this and Ice Shard. I mean, this is worse if he has Nopify. But I think it's still the better play to go for. We lose our board, and he keeps his big stuff. But in theory, Blighted Ravine kills both of these. He's got to have the pump spell, right? Oh, he's going for max damage. Yeah, that hurts. That hurts a lot. Good news is, we still get to hit this as 0, though. And he's down to only 2 cards. Now, I don't need to play Taliyah this turn, so I think we do have to actually play Blighted Ravine. And Taliyah next turn. This has some downsides, though. This has some homecoming downsides. Just have to hope he doesn't have it. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty good for him. Oh, he doesn't even put it back in. That's actually really good for me. Because that guarantees that I can block. Or play something to block this turn. Maybe it would have been better to keep Succumb up. Oh wow, he's got it all, huh? What's the last card? That's the real question. Well, I mean, if we can survive this turn, we are in much better shape. We're probably going to play this Frozen Thrall this turn. Yikes. Last card pump spell. Unreal, dude. Wow. Oh, so garbage. Well, if you draw perfectly, you win like that. We played that exceptionally well, but unfortunately, my opponent had literally the perfect nuts, but oh well, on to the next. Oh my god, that's the fastest Q-pop we've gotten all day. Thresh Nasus, okay. I think this matchup's a little bit better than Azir Aurelia, but we will find out. Ice Shard's pretty good. I like Promising Future, but we don't have something to use it with. So I think we have to pitch Promising Future here. I think I like the card draw on Preservarium. Do we have to pitch? I guess. We don't have any combo pieces to go with these two. So I think we pitch them to look for combo pieces. So we're probably in for Preservarium next turn, although they do get to attack, so maybe we're on the Ice Shard plan. Ravenous Butcher? Okay. That's good. Not Ravenous Butcher. Ooh, Draklorn's good. Draklorn's actually really good, I think. Ooh. I like Taliyah, too. Okay. Get that free damage in. Obviously, they have a way to sack the Curse Keepers this turn. Ooh, I like that a lot, too. Although, Clockwork Curator plus Ice Shards is a pretty sick turn. Do I Ice Shards in response to that? I don't think so. Because if I Ice Shards there, I'm just going to kill both Curse Keepers, so he gets double Escaped Abomination. So we'll play the Curator, advance this. That way we can copy it with Taliyah next turn, and then like Draklorn flip them all. Potentially. Oh, okay. I like that. I like that a lot. Wonderful. I mean, we give him a Slay Trigger here, but now this is killable. Yeah, we're fine with that, I think. So we play this. And we copy that.
Come on, there's so much to see.
I suppose we could have, like, Curator this turn, then copied. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. Not great, obviously, but that is fine. Oh, man. I'm getting so tired of my opponents drawing perfectly every game. Okay, well, we can Avalanche plus Draklorn here, which is pretty sick. Yeah. So that's 2 deaths, and if I Avalanche, he's gonna see 1, 2, 3 deaths. How big is this Nasus? That's the question. So here's the thing. So if that happens, he prevents the Avalanche. We take 11. We take 11. He gets a Slay Trigger. Lissandra goes down to 1. And then we don't get to flip. But we have this to flip one of these next. So I think this is the better play. That does level it up, though, because now I kill several things. So now he gets Nasus. And he kills Lissandra. Okay. We take the damage. Okay, well, we don't take that much damage. So we can block. Okay. So we block here, kill that, and then we get to level up Lissandra next turn. Which is kind of the point here. And we can Tavern Keeper. Ooh, wow, that got the surrender? How? He had so many cards in hand. That's crazy. That's ridiculous. Sick though. I mean, we'll take that for sure, but what a wild surrender. On to the next. I don't know what this is. Other than probably a great game for Ice Shard and Blighted Ravine. We're gonna pitch that, but we're gonna keep everything else here, because, I mean, so, Ice Shard not as good against Renekton. That is pretty good against Renekton. Okay, so this is just full aggro then. Okay, so this is like decisive aggro, but it's running Bilgewater threats instead. This could actually be a decent Buried in Ice game. I could take another 2 from this.
Let's get to it.
Ages pass, yet I remain.
So we can move this to half. I mean, we're probably going to be in for Blighted Ravine this following turn. Yeah. Do we time in a bottle right now? Okay. Honestly, that's not that bad. Do I time in a bottle? That's the question. So going into the next turn with more banked mana is awesome, but what are we gonna do with it? I think we time in a bottle to make sure our next draw is good. So there's a lot of good things here. I mean, Draculorn Inquisitor is one of our best cards. Yeah, we'll take it. But it was also very debatable it takes Succumb to the Cold, because that's also really good.
Violence, chaos, and destruction.
So I can Harsh Winds here. That's a possibility. If I take it, I take 9 down to 9?
Time to get rich.
This is brave. But this gets our instant Thrall. Which should be difficult for my opponent to deal with. Not a guarantee, but so I can move it 4. Yeah, so not worth doing this yet. Okay. That's interesting. We did not really expect that. But I mean, we have this Harsh Winds, and this Harsh Winds does great things for us. I think it's probably worth doing this. And then we back. And we have double Thralls. Nothing to copy with Taliyah, though. That's sad. Well, that would be a lot more scary if I didn't have Harsh Winds. But since I do have Harsh Winds... not nearly as bad.
Now, people who knows me name.
It's still not worth. I was thinking about Blighted Ravine here, but I don't think it's worth. Do we just Buried in Ice? I mean, this has a huge upside, in theory. There's not a ton he can do at fast speed. I don't think. Well, there's that, I guess, yeah. I guess that's an option. Another Siphoning Strike? Unreal, dude. This game's so dumb. Well, our opponents will not stop high rolling every game. This one we're just dead to, though. Right? Like, well, we can draw Frostbite off the top. We're gonna keep playing because we can draw Frostbite off the top. But yeah, this is ridiculous. Oh man, that's a frustrating one. That's a really frustrating one because our opponent's deck was actually terrible. Like, that was just giga bad, but they drew perfect for what we had. But whatever, happens. On to the next. No, play it out. Play it out. I'm not even recording at this point, am I? Oh no, I am recording. Huh. Wow, that whole game was over in less than 5 minutes? That's insane. These are all bad. These are all bad. We just have to try and race this deck. Which is not good. Like, that's not a race we can win, but we do have to try it, because that's the only chance we have. But this is a terrible matchup, I feel like. I feel like there's no way this matchup is in any way considered good for us.
In Avarosa's name.
Yep. Okay.
Secrets hidden by frost. Ages pass, yet I remain.
Well, we have created our Frozen Thrall. So has the opponent, but that's not that big a deal for us. The funny part is he's going to actually pop this Thrall before we do. How much you want to bet? Okay, sure.
Frost gathers.
Silly. This is such a silly play. But we're trying to get him to play something, so we can, yes, get away with an Inquisitor. Although the Inquisitor doesn't actually work here. Like, it doesn't actually level up this Thrall. Not yet.
I live and die for you alone, my lady.
Okay.
What will you have?
It is time for you to prove yourself, my warrior.
Multiples, not actually good.
Dare not serve any other, my lady.
Well, if we can get these ticked down, we're in great shape. But we're like dead this turn, right? Like this next turn. What can we do here to not be dead? You know what? We're not dead. We have answers. They're not good answers, but we have answers. Yep. Draws a champion. Plays a champion. Yes. Correct. Okay, 3 damage to all units. That's unfortunate because it means now to kill this Lissandra. So I could kill this Lissandra. But to do that, I would have to kill my own Draklorns. Wait. We found the way out. We heal the one, then we avalanche, killing our other Draklord, but killing Lissandra and Trundle, and now we shouldn't die to a Watcher this next turn. And I can do some decent damage right now. Right? I don't think we go for more damage than that. I don't think it's worth playing the Lissandra here. Do we play anything else? I don't think so. So we have one Frostguard Thrall. Okay, yep. I don't think there's any possible way to die to Watcher this turn. Maybe if he has like double 8-drop. If he has that, that's insane. it's a possibility though. And honestly, if we lose to that, that's fine. Okay. We're not losing to like to double fading memories. Fading memories ice pillar. Okay. Rite of Negation is really sweet here. Advance the landmark 4 rounds. Okay. Boom, 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 boom. Pull that. That's a lot of damage, and we can even entomb, or not entomb, but Fury of the North as well. I think we are in decent shape right now. That was one of his better ways to get out of this. Has another one. Is that enough damage for him? No. So we Fury of the North. And we Fury of the North. That drops him to 2. And we Ice Shard. Which has him dead. Okay, he needs more answers. Oh, we win. So, I forgot about the whole damage Trundle and kill him that way. That wasn't even the line of play I was thinking about. I was thinking about slamming the Blighted Ravine and that killing him. And so the reason that we actually used Ice Shard at the window we did, obviously ended up being good. And the right play was to see right there where it took the health off Trundle and we killed him. Or, well, we did the one more extra... So we did 1 damage to the Nexus off Ice Shard, and 1 more damage to the Nexus off of Trundle having 1 less health. But the other thought was that doing 1 more point of damage drops his Nexus to the point that Blighted Ravine is lethal, even through a leveled up Lissandra, which was highly likely at that point. But yeah, I mean, we'll take that. For sure. Okay. Azir Darius burn. Okay. Well, this is a decent hand. I don't know that I want to keep this Curator, though. I think we pitched that. Okay, this is even better now. With the turn 1 Thrall. Although now we wish we had the Curator, but... no, can't do anything about that, so... But we have Tavern Keep for turn 3, so that is really good for us. And if he opens swings, we can always just succumb to the cold. Ooh, I like Blighted Ravine. Okay, so if he opens swings, we take 6. If I Avalanche, I take another 1. Does he play stuff? Okay. But that saves me damage in the long run. because then the 1 gets me down to 14, and the 2 from her gets me down to 12, which is still better off than where we were at. So we're okay with that. Basically what I'm saying is, we're okay with that. Worst case scenario, they play a Legion Saboteur here and we go to 9.
Strike at their foundations.
Okay. That's not too bad. We get to heal. Although there is an argument for going Blighted instead. But definitely since we pulled Time in a Bottle, I think we Tavern Keep plus Time in a Bottle. And I do think we time in a Bottle now. Just to get the perfect draw for us. And we're starting to get to the point that this Promising Future could be really, really good for us. I don't think we actually want another Blighted Ravine or another Succumb, so I think we do take Draculorn here. Even though we are kind of a defensive deck, is what we're going for. I think I swing here. I think I swing here because I think trading here is my best case scenario. Like, I don't think it gets better for me. Ooh, especially since he leads on, or he follows it up with Bakai Reaper.
Out here, you're moving or you're dead.
My lady calls to me and I obey.
Clear it out.
I will definitely take the 6.
Submit to the cold.
We're getting into low health points here. We're definitely getting into low health points. But we have right for protection. In theory.
My desert, my rules.
Yeah, that would seem weird for him to do that. Deal 4. Do I want to prevent that? I don't believe the answer is yes. So, what do we do next? Blighted Ravine? This'll strip Spell Shield. And it does gain us 2 life. And kills the Reaper. Oh wait, it doesn't strip Spell Shield. Interesting.
We love it when they run.
Well. Pour one out. Yeah, we have to do this now. That sucks.
Scared of a fair fight?
Okay.
Forgetting
Not yet a problem. So then we take a little bit. We take a little bit. And we're definitely in a position where we're gonna have to top deck well. That is top decking well.
destined to die.
Yeah, we can destroy a mana gem for that. The question is whether we should have attacked at all, though. Oh, it doesn't matter. We should have led on Tavern Keep. Although, again, we were still dead there regardless, because then he untaps and kills us, so... We drew a bit poorly, for sure. Not really a point we wanted to draw a right, to be honest. So, how do we do in our matches? Well, in the video, 2 and 3, which is a slightly losing win rate, and in total, My win rate on the deck is 33%, or 33% would be how the rounding works. So, it's a grand total of 4 wins, 8 losses. So the deck is bad. It's not great. It's not the worst deck, and really does depend, I think, a little bit on what you see in the day. But definitely the most frustrating part about playing it is that I lost to several bad decks. And I really, really hate ladder decks that lose to bad decks. Like, I want that to be 1 in a million, not losing to Fizz Renekton, losing to Golden Taric, losing to the very nerfed Fizz Elusives, but somehow miraculously we beat Zoe Soul Celestials running Noxus twice. So that was a bad deck that I figured was going to win by that same logic, because it just kept losing to bad decks. So that's frustrating. Azir Relia were 0-2 against, so that also is frustrating, and that is how that matchup is supposed to go. So if you're seeing it a fair bit, but we're also 0-2 against Azir Darius, which doesn't feel good either, to be losing to both of the aggro decks when we're kind of control-y in the way the deck is built even. Like, I went even a little more heavily control-y than some other people do, and we lost to the aggro deck, so that's really bad. Against Thresh Nasus, we split 1-1, so that feels a little bit better. But we should have done even better than that. I think that matchup is really good for us. But to be fair, the loss to Thresh Nasus, which I didn't show, had a pretty gruesome misplay. Like, I swung into Nasus, so he got the 10 damage hit, got Spell Shield. Thresh was leveled up too, like a lot of bad stuff for us. And essentially I went for like the Ice Shard to kill it. But they had a kill spell in response, which they had plenty of mana for, so I should have just assumed that was going to happen. So that was poorly played, and just in general, I shouldn't have swung into it. I had a Frostbite spell in hand, so if I waited, I could have always Frostbited Nasus on his swing, and then we would have been in better shape. So that was kind of poor play on my part that cost that. And then the other win, obviously, the Spectral Matron game. I wasn't even going to include that game originally, but it was just too fun of a game to not include. Like, that was some real against the odds stuff there, and we had to do some really neat plays, like healing our own track Lorne so that we can avalanche to clear his board. So that was just a fun game. Kind of neat. Had to include it. So I took that over one of the Zoe Soul Celestial wins, because those were really dominant games. They were really, really good for us, especially the last one where we had 4 Thralls, plus a leveled up Taliyah, and a Drac Lorne, I think? Oh, no, it was Clockhand. It was Clockhand, Taliyah, and 4 8/8s with Trample. So that was pretty sweet, but I didn't think those games were quite as worth including as, like, the Spectral Matron ones. And obviously, I wanted to represent the losing record, because really, this deck's not great right now. I think, on average, most people have pulled over 50%, but I think it really depends on what you're running into. If you're running into a lot of, like, Ezreal Draven, Thresh Nasus, you're going to see Lissandra Taliyah perform a lot better. But once you hit aggro decks, despite the fact that we've actually tweaked to be fairly control-oriented for the aggro matchups, we're actually really bad into them, and that's kind of alarming with so many avalanches and ice shards in the deck, plus blighted ravines. The problem is they're just not fast enough. So if we wanted to tweak a little bit more for aggro, we definitely would want to bring in the Avaros and Sentries, because it feels really bad playing Curator for no value early on. And I mean, that was just luck of the draw. We drew really, really poorly into all of our aggro matchups, but Curator's a lot better if we have the Thrall into Curator. But in general, it's not a great 2-drop compared to, like, Avaros and Sentry is going to feel good no matter what our board position is, because it gives us something that can block. So that's definitely better to go into if you're encountering a lot of aggro like this. But there's probably not going to be an update on this deck on MetaCheck next week, because I don't think I can in good conscience play any more games on this deck, even though I think our win record would actually go up a little bit over time. But we're this close to the end of the season. If I want to hit Masters, I can't be wasting time on a deck like this, and that's kind of my point, is that this deck is a waste, essentially. If you're looking for something really fun to play that's going to be fairly competitive, this deck is a good pick. If you're trying to grind out the end of the season, it's a really bad pick, because you're going to have really coin flippy matchups, and you can lose to bad decks. So you're much better off with something like Ezreal Draven, Thresh Nasus, Azir Relia, that shouldn't lose to a bad deck, or it's going to rarely lose to a bad deck. So those are just a better pick. This is fringe. If you're looking for something very different that you want to play just for fun end of the season, I highly recommend this deck. It's really cool to be playing Taliyah and have the deck actually be really good. And if you're looking for an excuse to play new pool party skins, here's another great one. You can play Taliyah in this deck. It's going to be competitive. It's going to be good. You are going to have a relatively fun time, as long as you're not trying to grind, which I obviously am still trying to grind. Haven't hit Masters yet this season because I really just haven't been playing that much. And I was having a ton of fun, actually, this week playing leading up to right now. Tonight was miserable, playing those 12 games and losing 8 of them. That really was awful and made me not want to play again, but should be fine once I switch to like a real deck, an actually competitive, good deck that can reliably climb. Then I expect things to be a bit better. I've been really enjoying playing Ezreal Draven again, which was last week's On the Grind. So loving that deck. Gonna be playing more of that deck. We'll see if there's an On the Grind next week. If there's not, it means that I'm still hard grinding, and so I'm not gonna do another deck guide on like Thresh Nasus or Azir Relia or Ezreal Draven that I've already covered this season. So if I'm still grinding and we're not at Masters yet, which is highly likely considering that that's such a short time from now, we're probably not doing it on the grind next week. But maybe we turbo through, we get there real quick, and then I can do that on the grind without too much issue. So we'll see what happens. Find out next week, I guess. I'll try to have something out on Friday, if not, but we'll see. We'll see what it ends up being. But yeah, this deck, fun if you're looking for something different for the end of the season, but I don't recommend it if you're trying to grind because it's just too wishy-washy. But yeah, fun deck. If you are interested in trying it, there is a deck link and a deck code in the description below. And if you enjoyed the video, you can leave a like, comment below, and subscribe for more Legends of Runeterra content.